Hello and Mingalapa, welcome to MI Radio's Myanmar Today. I'm Henry Zin. Nation's leaders attended 73rd Martyrs Day Ceremony on Sunday. Hluttaw representatives placed emphasis on COVID-19 economic relief plan. As unfortunate as it sounds, over 60,000 workers lost their jobs while 132 factories suspended. Pilgrims are now allowed to visit Kaunghmudaw Pagoda in line with health guidelines. Stay with me on Myanmar Today for the reports, but let's take a look at what's happening in local news. President Wu Win-myint, State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi, Commander-in-Chief of Defence Services Senior General Mayow Lai, union ministers and concerned officials laid the wreath at the monument of Bojo Aung San at the 73rd Martyrs Day Ceremony held on Sunday at the Martyrs Mausoleum in Yangon. U Pyo-min-tae, Yangon Region Chief Minister and Chairman of the Working Committee for holding the 73rd Anniversary Martyrs Day, regional ministers, speakers, deputy speaker and MPs of Yangon Region Hluttaw and representatives from political parties paid tribute to Bojo Aung San and the martyrs as well. The 73rd Anniversary Martyrs Day Ceremony was held in accordance with the COVID-19 preventive guidelines and directives issued by the National Level Central Committee on Prevention, Containment and Treatment on Coronavirus Disease and the Ministry of Health and Sports. Director General U Tae of the Department of Union Peace Formation under the Ministry of Office of State Councillor met local and foreign media persons at the Presidential Palace in Naypyidaw last Friday following the social distancing arrangement and explained the current situation, including the COVID-19 infection. During the Dinjan holidays, 5 kinds of basic food items were distributed to the grassroots with no regular income for the first time. It cost over 50 billion kyats to 4 million households during the 10 days from 10th to the 19th of April this year. Families that were not included in the first distribution for various reasons were listed in the whole country before the start of the second program to distribute 5 kinds of basic food items. Then, each household was provided with 15,000 kyats. During the 12 days between 27th of June and 12th of July, over 1.4 million households were provided with 21 billion kyats worth of assistance. 20,000 kyats each will be presented to over 5.4 million households in the 3rd week of July under the distribution program for the grassroots with no regular income. The test run of the distribution program will be conducted in Popatewi Township in Naypyidaw, Kalor Township in Shan State, Meitila Township in Mandalay Region through mobile payment application. During the 4th distribution program, each of the over 5.4 million households will get 20,000 kyats, and that will begin in the last week of August. Alms food was donated to senior Buddhist monks as a commemoration service to the martyrs of national independence at the City Hall of Yangon City Development Committee on Sunday. The commemoration ceremony was attended by the Martyrs Day Organizing Central Committee chairman and relevant senior officials. Chairman of State Sangha Mahanayaka Committee and the patron of Bamor Monastery in Mandalay, Abhidaja Maharata Guru, Abhidaja Aga Mahasatama Jodika Bamor Sayadaw, Dr. Badana Kumara Bivamsa, delivered a sermon of the 5 precepts for the congregation, and the audience donated robes and offertories to the monks. Secretary of State Sangha Mahanayaka Committee, Tanlian Minyaw Sayadaw, Aga Maha Pandita Aga Maha Satama Jodika Daza, Badana Sandima Bivamsa preached sermons and shared merits for the fallen leaders, followed by the donation of alms food for day meal to the members of Sangha. Union Minister for Social Welfare, Relief and Resettlement, Dr. Win-myint held a meeting with officials from Rakhine State Government and departments concerned in Sittwe Saturday. The officials discussed the works being implemented by the Committee for Regional Resettlement and Socio-Economic Development and Resettlement Committee in cooperation with Rakhine State Government. UEHRD Committee is currently working together with the State Hluttaw and government, social organizations and international organizations to resettle the IDPs at Chowdalong IDP camp in Jiaopyu. The meeting highlighted that it is important to cooperate in building temporary shelters and providing assistance for the IDPs. A total of 140 Myanmar nationals who were working for Rich Pine, Century Miracle and Camel and Vega companies in Jordan returned home Sunday. Myanmar Airways International's relief flight carried the first batch of Myanmar citizens from Jordan and landed at the Yangon International Airport at 4:45 a.m. On arrival at the airport, the Ministry of Labour, Immigration and Population, the Ministry of Health and Sports and the Yangon Region government provided them with proper medical checks and arranged 21-day quarantine for them. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is also planning to bring back Myanmar workers who are still stranded in Jordan in the second batch of repatriation in the 4th week of July. Regional head of the Directorate of Hotels and Tourism in Mogwai said a plan is underway to implement a hotel zone project on a plot of land that is 60 acres wide. The project is a part of ecotourism development, and the hotel zone will be near Hluttaw Pagoda's precinct in Minbu district. The environment of forests, mountains, and land near Hluttaw remains intact. The 60-acre land is located beyond Lantern Bridge near Hluttaw. Authorities have already granted permission to implement the hotel zone with the approval of the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Irrigation and the Ministry of Hotels and Tourism. The project is expected to start implementing in February 2021 before the Hluttaw Pagoda Festival. That's all with the local news, and we'll dive right into our first report now. Myanmar's national leaders attended the 73rd anniversary of Martyrs Day held at the Martyrs Mausoleum in Yangon Sunday. President Win Myint, State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi, Vice President U Min Sui, family members of fallen martyrs, high-ranking officials and invited guests paid tribute to the independence heroes of Myanmar by laying wreaths. Thoras Within will tell us more.
President of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar, Win Myint, and State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi laid wreaths at the monument of General Aung San at the ceremony of 73rd Martyrs Day held at Martyrs Mausoleum in Yangon on the 19th of July. The ceremony was held in line with the health guidelines of COVID-19 prevention, and the attendees were Vice President U Min Sui, who is also serving as the patron of 73rd Anniversary Martyrs Day Convening Central Committee, Hluttaw Speaker U Ti Khun-myat, Hluttaw Speaker Man Win Khai Than, Union Chief Justice U Tun Tun U, Commander-in-Chief of Defense Services Senior General Min Aung Hlai, Union Ministers, Yangon Region Chief Minister U Phyo Min Thay, departmental officials, families of the martyrs, and invited guests. President U Win Myint, Vice President U Min Sui, Speakers of Hluttaw and Hluttaw, Union Chief Justice U Tun Tun U, Commander-in-Chief Senior General Min Aung Hlai, and officials laid wreaths and paid tribute to the 9 fallen martyrs of the country. At that moment, the flag of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar was lowered to the half mast. The Guard of Honor presented arms, and a military bugle sounded the last post. A 2-minute silence was observed to honor and pray for General Aung San and the martyred leaders. After the officials had completed the tribunal ceremony, on behalf of General Aung San's son, U Aung San U, nephew U Ye Aung Than, and granddaughter Mat Mei Myama Aung Than laid wreath and paid respects at the monument. Afterwards, the State Councillor of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar, Aung San Suu Kyi, who is the daughter of General Aung San, paid tribute to her father and the martyrs by laying wreaths. Moreover, the family members of the fallen martyrs, the Kaunghmudaw, Jido Ubacho, Uba Win, Mamba Kai, Maipon Sobwa Sasantun, Urazet, Uoma, and Yebo Gotri paid tribute and laid wreaths. Later, the Yangon Region government, the Yangon Region Hluttaw, registered political parties, associations, and foreign missions in Yangon also paid tribute to fallen heroes and laid wreaths at the mausoleum. The ceremony was held in accordance with the health regulations of COVID-19 by the Ministry of Health and Sports, and after the official ceremony, the citizens were allowed to enter the mausoleum and pay tribute to the 9 martyrs with a limited number of 12 persons at a time. Mabdandazo came to pay tribute to the martyrs, and she said,
I came here to pay tribute to the martyrs of our country on the day they were fallen. The Martyrs Day is the day that makes all Myanmar people across the country shed tears. Even though it has been many years, nobody can forget this day. On every July 19, everyone has nostalgia of the past and is mourning with painful memory. I came to this mausoleum every year, but this year, because of COVID-19, only a limited number of people are allowed to go inside, and I'm waiting if I go inside and pay tribute.
This is the first national event held during the outbreak of COVID-19. News reported by Thora Swizin from Myanmar International Radio.
That's a report on the nation's leaders attending the 73rd anniversary of Martyrs Day Ceremony. We'll move on to the next report. The third day of second Hluttaw's 17th regular session took place on Friday, and the Hluttaw representatives discussed COVID-19 economic relief plan with suggestions. The CERP is aimed to be implemented before the end of 2020 to meet the necessities for the economic remedies and reform amid COVID-19. Here's a report.
On the third day of second Hluttaw 17th regular session, Hluttaw representatives had discussions about COVID-19 economic relief plan CERP. This is the effort of the government to alleviate socio-economic impacts posed by COVID-19 and to support economic policy reform of the country, with the financial support from the union government's budget as well as international law. This CERP consists of 7 goals, 10 strategies, 36 action plans, and 76 actions, covering a wide range of fiscal measures focusing on human resources and policy responses. The Ministry of Planning, Finance and Industry reported the CERP procedures to the Hluttaw, and the representatives discussed it through various perspectives. The representatives pointed out that emphasis should be placed on agriculture sector because it can ensure the food security of the country, as well as the majority of the population is relying on agriculture and livestock sector for their livelihood.
Although
the purpose of CERP is good and the relief plan is effective, the loan and tax realization are not that enough. Moreover, there is weakness in the focus on agriculture as well as protecting the farmers and the workers of farming. The whole budget is not enough for the full recovery of the economy, so that the fund needs to be raised. Agriculture is the main economy of the country, so it is necessary to support the agriculture in detailed and rapid ways.
70% of population involved in agriculture and livestock sector, and 85% of employment in villages are from agriculture and livestock sectors. In the CERP, it is mentioned to provide financial assistance and to give advice on a boost in productivity and market connectivity for the farming. Under the CERP, to support the citizens from rural areas, cash for work project is also under implementation. It is to provide 10 million just for a village, 40% of which can be used to purchase the materials and supplies, and 60% is to be paid as wage to establish basic infrastructure in the village. The project is to be undertaken in 2,488 villages, with total labor force of 2.7 million. The village committee is to select the workers who can work for Catch for Work project.
For the exceeded amount of labor requesting for a Cash for Work project, the village committee has to select based on the basic standards. The prioritized workers have to be from poor family, women leading family, family of persons with disabilities, chronic diseases patients, and elders, and family with irregular income. The project has to be carried out in a transparent way, and there should be the platform for the villagers to complain any inconveniences or problems.
Moreover, the Hluttaw representatives highlighted that the CERP is designed to meet the current impairs of the country as a way of reaffirming the long-term strategy, so it also should include the long-term plans and actions.
As part of the assistance, the government provided the grassroots and people without regular income with 5 kinds of foodstuffs, and now 15,000 kyats is given for the remaining households, but this is only temporary support. We need to consider various perspectives through collaboration of ministries and governmental departments.
The CRP is to be implemented with 10% of the budget of the respective ministries as well as with international law. The plans are to be done before the end of 2020. News reported by Dora Swisen from Myanmar International Radio.
That's a report on Hluttaw representatives placing emphasis on COVID-19 economic relief plan. More reports coming up later. Stay with us. As a result of COVID-19 pandemic, there is a slowdown in the garment and local factories in the country. Due to the spread of the virus, 132 factories have suspended and reduced the manpower within the 4 months. According to the Ministry of Labour, Immigration and Population, over 60,000 workers have lost their jobs since the start of the year due to closures and reduction of workforce in factories. For more on the story, we turn to our reporter, Paul Moore.
As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a slowdown in garment and local factories in the country. As soon as the COVID-19 infection started in the country, many factories and workshops had suspended and reduced the manpower to continue the operations. In Yangon region, there are a total of 6,632 factories, workplaces, and workshops. Due to the spread of the COVID-19, 132 factories have suspended and reduced the manpower within the 4 months. According to the Ministry of Labour, Immigration and Population, over 60,000 workers have lost their jobs since the start of the year due to the closures and reduction of workforce in factories. 175 factories stopped operations and 105 factories have not been able to pay wage to the workers yet. During the pandemic, the most factories which have been affected are garment factories because of the lack of order and insufficient supply for raw materials. Based on the March data, 10,000 workers in Yangon are jobless. Kaunghmudaw Pagoda, Yangon Region Minister for Immigration, spoke to Myanmar Radio about the workers and factories during the COVID-19 period. She said,
In Yangon region, there are a total of 6,632 factories and workshops. We have tested the anti-COVID-19 measures to all the workers and workplaces. We have seen the reoperation in all the departments of all factories. We have resumed the operations in 6,015 factories, but we are going to carry out preliminary inspection on all the factories to prevent the infections and safety of the workers. By making this preliminary inspection, the level of the factories will increase in their grade like A-class factory or B-class and other kinds of. Because of the COVID-19, 132 factories and workshops had suspended and some reduced more workers. But we helped to operate back and we called the investors for those factories. In this situation, B-class factories have to change a lot in their performances. The government still supports the operations. We don't want them to suspend or reduce manpower.
A total of 4,000 workers have been unemployed after the factories and workplaces are shut down temporarily to prevent the spread of the COVID-19. At the end of the April, there are about 120 factories which are permanently closed and some are temporarily suspended with a reduced number of the workers. Martyrs Day, the worker from Hluttaw Township, spoke to Myanmar Radio about her worries. She said,
In this situation, finding a job is a really hard thing. Some factories had closed because of COVID-19 and some still had restrictions on the ages. If the factories and the workshops had suspended even for temporary purpose, we as working class people didn't have a guarantee to get another job.
Many factories are still operating on the past order before the pandemic. Half of the local factories are run by the foreign investor from the Republic of Korea and China. Matandansu, the worker in Hluttaw Township, spoke to MI Radio about her worries on the labor rights and COVID-19. She said,
I'm so worried and afraid of losing job because of COVID-19. I have to think of my family and I'm still trying to be the best in those periods. In the factories, they tested the anti-COVID-19 measures to the workers. I think that there would be more chance to us when the COVID-19 is over. I'm very happy about the foreign investment in our factories, but I would like to have more labor rights in this period.
As soon as the factories and workshops and other governments started running their operation, the Ministry of Health and Sport and the Ministry of Labor, Immigration and Population and combined teams are expected to begin inspection on the workshops, workplace and factories since the April to check whether they are following the regulations and recommendations of Ministry of Health and Sports.
And we have one last report on pilgrims being allowed to visit the Kaunghmudaw Pagoda. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Kaunghmudaw Pagoda has been shut down for nearly 3 months, which is just after the first positive case of COVID-19 here in Myanmar. Starting from the 15th of July, Kaunghmudaw Pagoda's Board of Trustees has started allowing the worshippers from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. following the health guidelines instructed by the Sagaing Region Government and the Ministry of Health and Sports. Here's a report.
Yazamani Sula Kaunghmudaw Pagoda, which is a must-see stupa in Sagaing, had started allowing the pilgrims since 15 July, according to the Kaunghmudaw Pagoda's Board of Trustees. Speaking to Myanmar Radio, Unite, the vice chairman of Kaunghmudaw Pagoda's Board of Trustees, said,
The people usually come and pay obeisance to the pagoda via all 4 gateways of the pagoda. Now we allow the worshippers to enter only through the front gateway and to exit only through the southern gateway. While entering the pagoda, they have to line up in 2 feet apart systematically, wearing the protections against the infection. While they are wandering the pagoda, groups with more than 5 people entering the pagoda are prohibited in accordance with the government's restriction on public gathering. We also allow the shops on the platform of the pagoda reopen, but only 2 people per shop. The visitors and the shopkeepers can only purchase the goods from a safe distance.
Kaunghmudaw Pagoda has been shut down for nearly 3 months, which is just after the first case of COVID-19 in Myanmar. Starting from 15th of July, Kaunghmudaw Pagoda's Board of Trustees had started allowing the worshippers from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. in accordance with the healthcare guidelines instructed by the Sagaing Region Government and the Ministry of Health and Sports. Ukuguchi is one of the security guards in Kaunghmudaw Pagoda, speaking to Myanmar Radio about the preventive measures, healthcare guidelines, and the public who are following these guidelines. He said,
The security guards, they have to ensure the safety of the visitors of the pagoda regarding their health, social distancing exercises, as well as their personal security. We take utmost care of the personal safety of the pilgrims during their visit of Kaunghmudaw Pagoda. The Office of Pagoda's Board of Trustees has also ordered us to contact with related medical service providers.
Speaking to Myanmar Radio, Kaunghmudaw, the Tanaka shopkeeper from Kaunghmudaw Pagoda, said,
We won't allow the people to go inside the pagoda unless they follow the health guidelines and fundamental prevention like wearing masks. We have also provided the visitors with washing basin and hand sanitizer. We also make sure to have appropriate social distancing protocol near the gateway and the interior part of the pagoda.
The pagoda, which houses the most venerated image of Buddha in the country, has been closed since early April as part of the government's cautioning measures against the potential risk of COVID-19 issues. As the first wave of COVID-19 gradually turns into recovery state, the restrictions have been slowly eased, and the most renowned pagodas in the country has been considering to reopening under cautions, health guidelines, and protection. Hluttaw Pagoda is considering reopening with the possible system of online registration, and Sule Pagoda is preparing precautionary measures and workshop for the pagoda's staffs. Even though the situation might be in a state of progression, a date has not been set for the reopening of Hluttaw Pagoda to the public. According to U Tan Sok, one of the members of Hluttaw Pagoda's Board of Trustees. On the other hand, Mandalay's famed Mahamuni Pagoda is ready to reopen after taking all the necessary precautions to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The chair of the pagoda's Board of Trustees said, with regard to Bagan, the local government reportedly allowed the hotelier to reopen 20 hotels and 1 guest house in Baganyau, Asian Cultural Region in Mandalay that was once closed due to COVID-19.
That's all we have for today's reports, and here's the international news on Myanmar Today. Indonesia has increased tax incentives for businesses in a move to try and limit the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic, its tax office said on Saturday. Previously announced tax relief that was due to expire in September has been extended until the end of the year, a statement said. They include tax breaks for some manufacturing workers and small and medium-sized enterprises and a discount on corporate tax installments. The government has also expanded the type of companies eligible to apply for the tax breaks, including, for example, forestry businesses in the scheme. It has allocated nearly $50 billion in state spending to fight the coronavirus pandemic. That and a projected drop in fiscal revenues are seen expanding its 2020 budget deficit by more than 3 times the government's original plan to 6.34% of gross domestic product. Chinese Ambassador Cui Tiankai said that the U.S. has to make, quote, a fundamental choice as to whether it's ready to live with China in peace and cooperate with the rising power to jointly tackle global challenges. Speaking on CNN's GPS program, which aired on Sunday, Cui said, quote, people have to fully recognize the realities of today's world, that there are continuing and ongoing efforts by the Chinese people to modernize their own country, and that China certainly has the legitimate right to build itself into, quote, a modernized, strong, prosperous country like every other country in the world. In other news, U.S. President Donald Trump condemned protests in Portland, Oregon, and violence in Democrat-run cities on Sunday as his Republican administration prepared to intervene in urban centers, he says, have lost control of anti-racism demonstrations. Federal law enforcement officers armed with a new executive order aimed at protecting U.S. monuments last week started cracking down on crowds gathering in Portland to protest police brutality and systematic racism. Facing declining polling numbers before his November 3rd election against Democrat Joe Biden, Trump is making law and order a central campaign issue to appeal to critical suburban voters. People in France will be compelled to wear face masks in closed public spaces from Monday, a measure to stem the coronavirus transmission in the country. It was revealed by the country's health directorate, Direction Générale de la Santé, also known as DGS, to news agency AFP on Sunday. Venues concerned include meeting the performance halls, cinemas, restaurants, hotels, game rooms, educational centers, holiday centers, libraries, places of worship, indoor sports venues, museums, stations, and airports. President Emmanuel Macron said on July 14th that face masks would become obligatory from August 1st, but the date was quickly brought forward amid concerns expressed by scientists after slight signs of a resurgence in the virus. A United Arab Emirates spacecraft began its journey to Mars with a blast-off in Japan on Monday in what is the Arab world's first interplanetary mission. The launch of the spacecraft dubbed ML, or Hope, marks the start of the 7-month journey to the Red Planet. The craft is expected to reach Mars in February 2021, the year the UAE celebrates 50 years since its formation. The mission was initially due to launch on July 14th, but has been delayed twice due to bad weather conditions. The Emirati project is one of 3 racing to Mars, including 1011 from China and Mars 2020 from the United States, taking advantage of a period when the Earth and Mars are nearest. And that's all we have for now. Thanks for joining me on Myanmar Today. I'm Henry Zin. Stay safe and stay protected, everyone. I'll see you again. Goodbye.